Hello, this is Kate with Ironstone Vineyards out of Lodi, California, and we have two really fun items for you out of California today. They're a little bit different than things you normally see. One of them is the Obsession Symphony, which you've all known and loved in Ontario for quite a long time. Thank you. Really beautiful, bright, floral, tropical notes in the nose, and then a ton of acidity on the finish. Picture it drinking by the poolside over the summer. The other really fun one we have for you today is the Ironstone Chenin Blanc, which is actually in vintages right now. It's a new item for us. We made just a little bit of it last year and it went over really well, so we made a bit more for 2016 and got some up here to Ontario for you wonderful people. So enjoy!
Welcome to Flying for Flavor, episode 36, and it's a wine-themed episode, so we're drinking wine.
Surprise!
So we're drinking wine. So it's actually going to be California wine. But I wanted to do an entire episode on this because I just finished doing a California wine class about a week ago, and it went over really well. Kind of introduced people to some other California wines or grape varietals aside from the standard ones that they find in the store. And then I wanted to talk about some of the foods and stuff that are usually served in California. It is a big hodgepodge depending on where you are in the that state. But it is all about the wines, and it's always very sad to me is that when we go down there, the wines that we have are hard to find when we get home. So there's a lot of times things are, yes, they're listed or they're in our LCBO. Sometimes we up here in the north only get here and there a few. And then sometimes you can have to order directly through websites or through distributorships. So I'm doing a research trip this week. So I'm going to the California Wine Fair. We're taping this on a Wednesday. I leave Thursday morning. So I'll be there all day. I'm doing the trade tasting during the day, and then I'm doing the public one in the evening, because Norm, of course, doesn't like being fluffed out of going to a wine show. So I'm going to go back with him in the evening, but at least I'll get the work stuff done, and I'm going to get a lot of interviews, which you'll hear interspersed throughout this episode. So, in honor of our California wine episode, we are drinking California Chardonnay. This is one of my new favorites. It's by a producer called Tom Gore.
I've never heard of it.
I know. Anyways, it's got a creamy mouthfeel. That's from the malolactic fermentation. That's the second type of fermentation. So it's the same kind of second fermentation that usually happens for red wines. That's why you get that bigger mouthfeel.
Yeah.
So they do it a lot. Chardonnay is one of those grapes that you can do that for, and that's what gives it that butteriness that California is really known for. So it still has a lot of acid in it because they do. They have some of it is in 60% oak, and then about 40% is actually fermented in stainless steel. So that's where you get that crispness from. One of the cool things, though, it doesn't say in the bottom because it's such a small percentage, but there is a little splash of Sauvignon Blanc in there, just to heighten that little citrus finish, which is kind of nice. Anyways, it's a really nice, easy drinking Chardonnay. So this might be one to kind of keep on your patio shopping list for the upcoming season. I will have the link, of course, to the LCBO link, so you can either buy it online or find the closest location to you. And they are going to be at the wine fair tomorrow in Ottawa, so I'm going to go and chat with them personally when I'm there, I'm hoping. Okay, so Deke and I are all alone today because those silly girls are off in another country in beach sand and everything. Can you hear the bitterness in my voice?
Stacey in Jamaica.
Yeah, so Stacey's in Jamaica. So if you've been following the Facebook page, she posted a couple little videos this week from the buffet line, because that's what we do. We basically travel to eat. And then Cynthia's in the Dominican Republic this week. So they're both back in a couple of days. So hopefully they'll both be back here next week. And I'll be crazy angry about their tans, because I'm feeling fairly pale at the moment, because it's not feeling like spring and right now at all.
Hi, my name is Dan Wildermuth. I'm the Vice President of global marketing for Rodney Strong, and I wanted to introduce you to a couple of wines at the LCBO stores. If you walk in looking for a really delicious, refreshing white wine, there is the Rodney Strong Charlotte's Home Sauvignon Blanc. It is literally liquid sunshine, California sunshine in a bottle. Crisp, refreshing, generalist, LCBO, 1995. And then also another brand that is purchased by the owners of Rodney Strong in 2007 is Davis Bynum, which will have a Chardonnay in the stores in October. That is an absolutely incredible, very well structured Russian River Valley single vineyard from the River West Vineyard in Russian River Chardonnay. It is a Chardonnay lover's absolute dream. Lots of minerality, beautiful fruit, big structure. Will come in at about $29.95. So hope to see you in the LCBO stores.
Okay, so let's move on to other things. Have you been watching the news, Deke?
I have been watching the news.
Okay, so there's a couple things when I talked about industry updates that kind of caught my attention. One about the Southwest Airlines, the engine that blew.
Yeah, that was,
oh my God, that was scary.
What a way to go.
I watched a video, an interview with a guy. So I watched the interview with a guy who took most of the pictures that they've been using on the news. So his name was Marty Martinez. As much as it's a cool story and there's a lot of cool photographs, and yes, it's a tragedy and it's a sad thing that lady passed away, I was almost enraged when I heard it, and I'm hoping that others don't follow suit. When the oxygen masks fell, the first thing this guy did was take out his laptop. And then tried to find his credit card because he wanted to buy Wi-Fi so he could do Facebook Live. So he was actually broadcasting Facebook Live when the plane was going down. And my first thought is, like he said, it was, because I really wanted to communicate with friends and family, but he also let it slip that he's in marketing.
Okay.
But it's the fact that he said it was so surreal. Here I am sitting there on the oxygen mask. I'm barely putting it on, and I'm digging around for my credit card so I could buy Wi-Fi. And my thought is, when I'm going down, the last thing that I am worried about is worrying about having to buy Wi-Fi.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyways, I'm just thinking of all these people. And my other thought was that if you're in the air and the engine's blown, do you take that chance and just turn your phone on anyways if you need to call home? Right? Like, it's not internet based. You can always,
right, yeah.
But it was the fact that he pulled his whole laptop out.
That's
and I'm just
crazy.
thinking, the plane's going down, laptops flying around, right? It could have caused more injury.
Right, yeah.
And I was just surprised that here he is being interviewed. I believe it was on CNN. And I'm thinking, nobody said what would have happened if you not paying attention and so busy trying to do your Facebook Live thing that somebody else got injured. Right? Or you weren't paying attention to instructions and safety things. And like, where were the flight attendant staff like trying to stop him, saying this is not a flight?
He could have blacked out.
Anyways, I was just...
can you imagine?
And this whole thing, like I said, again, this happened 20 minutes after takeoff. So it was at that time during the flight where he hasn't got the okay yet to take his laptop out, obviously. Right? So after you get to a certain height, you basically have to sit around and wait for a minute until that seatbelt light goes off, and then they can tell you can start taking your laptop off. So it wouldn't have been safe for him to do so anyways, obviously. Yeah. But yeah, it was just
crazy.
Like,
what a crazy story.
Who does that? But it's the fact that he's basically getting to go on all these news shows now and talk about the ordeal and show off his videos and slip in that he has a marketing company. Right. So, you know what? There's better ways to get famous. That's my opinion. Okay.
Wow.
So this emergency landing happened in Philadelphia. Poor Philadelphia, because their second one has to do with Starbucks. So I don't know if you saw that big Starbucks video.
I did.
Oh my God.
It's terrible.
Every time I hear about or I listen to people talking about things they see on the internet and do you believe it or not believe it, there's enough. I mean, there were people standing in the Starbucks that were basically speaking to the police officers saying, this doesn't make any sense. Why are you? So I was kind of enraged about it because I thought there are so many people that were to blame. It's not Starbucks alone.
Right.
So there's the licensee who owns the location, obviously hasn't trained his people. The manager was a female that I heard the voice. She's the one that called 911. So not even just calling the police, local police.
What could have been
911 is for emergencies.
Right.
So she just called 911 for that. the 911 should have asked some more questions before dispatching the police. And then the police themselves, when they showed up, should have assessed the situation, figured there's nothing happening, and basically just started to calm people down.
Right.
So all of these things happened in a lead up.
Absolutely.
And then the two gentlemen that got arrested, they were both so calm. Like which is sad, was the fact that they were not fighting back. That's what bothered me, I think, the most when I saw the video, was that they were so saddened and embarrassed that this happened, that they just let them.
Too.
And they just let it happen. And it's because obviously this was not the first time for them. And that's what was kind of sad. Yeah. However, so in the States only, Starbucks CEO and President Kevin Johnson, he announced that on May 29th, all of the Starbucks in the US will be closed for the day. You can never find a Starbucks that's usually closed, but every Starbucks location in the US will be closed on May 29th. All employees, managers, licensees will have to go through mandatory anti-bias training.
No kidding.
So that's that's a good thing. I'm hoping it's a first step towards things, because I think about how much people are traveling and going to other countries.
Like they were sitting there.
My name is Rob Hawk. I'm the Great Lakes Regional Manager at Klein Cellars. We're a Sonoma County winery. We've been in existence since 1982. So Fred and Nancy Klein, proprietors. We're a first-generation family-owned winery, which is sort of an endangered species in California these days, for sure. But I'm here to talk to you a little bit about one Rhone varietal in particular, and why it really should fit into your everyday shopping plans if you're a traditional Chardonnay drinker especially. So we're very passionate about Rhone varietals at Klein. We've made things like Syrah, Mourvedre, Carignan, Grenache for many years. But our core white wine varietal at the winery for almost 3 decades has been Viognier. And we love Viognier at Klein. We are pretty much the premier Viognier producer in California. There's only a couple thousand acres of Viognier even planted in California, so it's still pretty limited. We own about 300 to 350 of those, so like I said, we're by far the premier producer of Viognier. And for us folks in the U.S. especially that are subjected to these oceans and oceans of Chardonnay on a daily basis.
Oh, stop.
Viognier is something that all of you Chardonnay lovers should definitely check out, because I think there are definitely common properties in Viognier that can fit your love for Chardonnay. Especially as spring and summer rolls around, if it ever does show up at some point. Viognier has those just beautiful, bright, tropical fruit flavors, especially apricot and peach, that kind of our palates just kind of crave on a hot day, while keeping the tradition that you Chardonnay lovers love of kind of that creamy palate approach. And
peach
a little
pie.
bit peach pie.
Peach pie.
That beautiful weight on your tongue. Viognier provides that, and I know that is definitely some of the things that you find attractive in Chardonnay. So, and another great thing about Viognier, it is much more of a value than Chardonnay tends to be on a daily basis.
Like something that helps their pocket.
So Viognier, is that kind of everyday go-to white wine that you can just have in the fridge, that you can sip on while you're making dinner.
5 o'clock wine?
5 o'clock wine. You can pull it out when you have friends out on the deck. You don't need to be having a meal to drink Viognier. And it's not one of those wines that tends to be very fatiguing. So you can have 2, 3 glasses,
you're
bottles,
speaking my language.
whatever your preference may be. So Viognier, if you've been intimidated for it, if you've seen it before in the stores, you're afraid to ask about it because you're afraid to mispronounce it, always remember that G is pronounced like a yay. It's not a hard G, it's a yay. So don't be intimidated. Grab a bottle, take it home. It's not going to set you back very much. It's well worth the investment just to take it home and see if you can discover something new.
Oh, sounds good to me.
Anyway, so for those of you who happen to be in the States on May 29th, I would don't bother going into a Starbucks. Because usually it's one of those places that you always know is open. So, but if you want to see the video, I'm going to put the link. There was an interview with that CEO with Don Lemon on CNN last night, and he was visibly embarrassed to the point he was almost in tears. Like, this is not what he says Starbucks was supposed to be. The fact that he's had to spend like all day, all night, and he actually went and sat across and met with the two guys to apologize in person. So he is visibly shaken, and I do think it may help the company going forward. But you can judge for yourself. So I'll have the link to that interview on the show notes. So since I'm sipping on the wine, so I'll give you a quick little introduction about how the California wine regions work. So you'll see a lot of names of regions or areas, not necessarily towns, on bottles of Chardonnay. Not just Chardonnay, sorry, any of the wines. So usually they're going to refer to, just like we would say, we have the Niagara region.
Right.
So, and we have the Prince Edward County region. California is broken up into AVAs. So that's like their VQS, their standard of rules.
Right.
Within each AVA, so there's like North Coast and Central Coast and all these different bigger areas. Within that, there are smaller ones. So that's where you get into like Sonoma, right? There's other smaller ones in Napa. Within that, there's even smaller ones sometimes. And sometimes the smaller AVA actually overlaps between borders. So it's difficult until you really get to know which ones you like or don't like. Usually the way I explain it has to do with the shape of the state of California is long and narrow.
Right.
So meaning everything at the north is usually going to be not quite cool climate, because it's not as north as we are, unless you're at the very north area. But you're going to find the lighter style wines that'll be up there. The whites are going to be crisper. The fruit stuff, the fruit flavors they're going to be closer to Pinot Noirs. They may have some Cabernet Sauvignons, of course, across the state, but the style of Cabernet will be much lighter up in the northern section as they were down below. As soon as you add heat to growing grapes, higher sugar content, more fruit flavors, more intense heat. So you're going to get those bigger, darker Chardonnays, and you're going to get heavier Cabernet Sauvignons, and that's where all like the bigger Zinfandels come in. And so it basically, depending on what style of wine you like in California, you kind of say, okay, well, I want some from these areas, and then I want some from these areas. So I just made a note. I'm going to include a map.
Hi, my name is Cam Matches. I'm VP of Sales with Whole Family Wines based in Paso Robles, California. We're here at the California Wine Fair Tour, and we're pouring a number of our fantastic brands. One brand I'd like to bring to people's attention is our Triana Red Blend, which is periodical available at LCBO. And the name Triana, first of all, comes from the trinity, or the three things that makes Paso Robles unique. And that is, one, the sun. We get very warm growing days, which help for, obviously, fruit maturation.
As opposed to here.
As opposed to the weather outside in Ottawa right now. That's correct. Also, the soils. We get a variety of soil types, from clay, silty, rocky, and also the third being the sea. So we get the marine coastal influence, which really helps cool down the grapes at night to make sure that they don't get overripened, retains that fruitiness, retains that acidity.
Slows things down.
Exactly, low and slow. If you're a cooking, you're a barbecue fan, low and slow. Similarly, so really lends to some really balanced fruit that we use in our Triana Red Blend. And this wine is a 75% blend of Cabernet Sauvignon and 25% Syrah. So you really get a nice, rich, and almost, very finessed flavor. You get oaky tones. There's been oak treatment on this brand, largely 75% French oak as well as American oak. So very drinkable wine, very luxurious. People who try this really fall in love with the brand, and we're hoping to make this more available in the province. And so that's a little bit about Paso Robles, a little bit about our wine, and Triana Red. Watch for it.
Triana Red. Woo woo.
Watch for it.
Okay, so now let's say that you were in California, as an example, and you decide you want to go shopping or you want to buy wine. You go to a little wine store and you're so excited because there's all these wines that you like, some wines that you don't like, and all of a sudden you're like, okay.
You can choose one.
What can I do? So there's a couple of things. I'm kind of a pro at this. There is, from the States, I'll give you a synopsis. My number one rule is, if you can buy it at home, do not buy it abroad.
Right.
the extra weight, the extra trouble of
of
packing
course.
it, like it just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Even if it's currently out of stock at home, it's still better to have some patience and wait until it gets, relisted again than to sit around and try to figure out how to take that home. Number one thing is I use the LCBO app on my phone, so I'll do quick searches for wines. A lot of times you can also use the barcode reader in the app. It'll save you from typing it, but that's a really big one to look for. And then sometimes I even use winesearcher.com as an option because it's a more international website, and there might be other wines in another place where you're going to later, right? So if you happen to travel to the States quite a bit and you don't have enough room or space to take home this wine now, if you look up on winesearcher.com and turns out that same wine is in stock in a store in New York because you're going there for a business thing later, then you can say, okay, I'm going to go and look. I'll get it the next time I'm down here and I can prepare. Because planning ahead is a big thing. So, of course, we have a limit per person of wine of 1.5 liters per person, which is essentially 2 bottles. And 2 bottles could be like an evening. So 2 bottles is nothing. However, I have brought, my very first time bringing a lot home was 9 bottles. That was from France. And I don't know if it was from the trip I did South Africa. We were gone 3 weeks, and I think that was about a little over a year and a half ago. And I brought 13 bottles home that time.
What would they charge you for that?
Well, that's the whole thing. So I'm going to include the link on there to give you an example of my last time that I went away. And what the duty and everything else cost, and actually the list of the wines, just so that you get an example of what happens when you go through. So I did it the old-fashioned way where I have that standard form that they hand you on the plane on the way home.
Okay.
So one of the things is I planned ahead. I knew I was going to be buying wines to come home. I try to only pack what I need to on the way there. So a couple of things I'll do is, if I know I'm bringing wine home, I will bring a full-size suitcase, but I only pack it 1/2 to 3/4 full. And then I also make sure to pack, it has to do with, it's all these little trick things.
It's genius. I mean, it's so...
You got to plan. Or I'll have a duffel bag that has wheels on it. You can get some of these collapsible ones that will go in the inside. And now I have a second bag to check. Because sometimes, especially the overseas flights, a lot of airlines will charge you a flat fee of like $25 or $50 for you to check a second bag if you pay for it in advance. So I'll pay. So when I'm buying my flight or checking in, I will check in and say I'm checking in only 1 bag on the way there, and I'm checking in 2 bags on the way home. And the second bag's a little cheaper. So this allows me that flexibility that when I get there, I can either buy a second bag and then wrap everything in it and kind of divide stuff into 2 bags. And sometimes the extra bag fee is like $50. And that means gives you another 22 kilograms or 23 kilograms of weight, which is a lot.
Yeah.
I buy the wine skins and I reuse them. So they look like gift bags that have bubble wrap on the inside.
Sure.
So I have those that I've been buying over the years and reusing them. I've also used in the past, like straight old dollar store bubble wrap does the trick. But in a pinch, as I'm traveling to one place to another, any clothes that are dirty or I'm not going to wear again, like t-shirts are too wrinkled now or something like that, I just keep wrapping them around bottles and I cushion them with my own clothes and just roll them in there. I have never had a bottle explode on me yet. Right? So between extra grocery bags and whatever else that you can sort of throw in there, everything wraps around. Oh no, I'm not a big sock person. Yeah, and please don't like tweet at me telling me you're going to wrap your underwear around your wine. That's disgusting. But you know what I mean? Like you may have a sweater that you packed, but you don't really need it. Yeah, the packed underwear around it. Okay. So that's one of the things. So they're protecting. So those wineskins are really great tool. And then again, packing as you go. If you're going to more than one city, as you're going along your trip and you happen to have wine or what you're buying or liquids like that, pack a suitcase as you're going along, meaning that by 3/4 way in my trip, I know I'm not going to need 4 pairs of pants and all that kind of stuff. So I will take that first bag suitcase that I'm going to check and I will pack it that I never have to touch it again. So I put in shoes I'm not going to wear anymore, jewelry stuff I'm not going to wear anymore, any sweaters I don't need anymore. And I will pack that up to that 23 kilo mark. And I will basically almost lock the suitcase. It is done. So now I'm just lugging it around. And then I'll worry about the second one. And I only have a small bag. Like basically my toiletries and stuff are in there, whatever clothes I need for the last few days. And then I can gauge on how much weight or how much space I have to buy anymore. So I feel like I'm going to try to top my 13 bottles the next time.
Cool.
So a couple of things, and the other things that have happened, there is a new app that Canada Customs has that you can download and basically pre-fill out that duty form, send it in and pay it online, so you only have to show them the receipt when you get there. I haven't used it yet. I'm going to try it on my next trip overseas, because usually the way it works for me is that I have a little notebook in my purse all the time anyways, so I'll just make a running list, because a lot of times they're not necessarily receipts. You're going to some family...
Is there like a barcode or something that they scan?
No, they don't scan anything. They're basically asking you to be honest about what you have.
Sure.
Especially if I say, yes, I'm over. You can either take a chance. Some people always do it if they have like an extra bottle or something. They basically hold their breath when they're going through and, just like praise God and everything, that nobody stops them. And because honestly, sometimes it's just a random thing that they pull you in.
Yeah.
And then they're going to ask you for the receipts. They're going to tear open your suitcases. So if you are going to be over and you know it, start writing a list of, okay, I have this wine. This is the value. This wine is the value. And it's not what you paid for it, it is the value of the wine. The reason I learned that is because sometimes when I'm traveling to certain wine regions, I get gifts from sales reps. I'll get an extra bottle thrown in as a thank you because I did an interview with somebody. I still have to count those in my duty thing. I can't say that it's free and I don't have to count it.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I will take all of those, make a running list, and then I have a total. It makes things much faster because most of those flights I'm usually coming in the wee hours. And if you have to stand 2 hours in the customs department while they're entering manually on their computer all of the things that you bought, by giving them a list, and then I'll take a photograph of that list before I get there. So this way I don't have to sit around and they wait for them to make a copy, print something out. I say, you can have that. I just give them the list. Right. So it goes much faster. They tabulate they remove your 1.5 liters that you're already owed. If you're traveling with somebody else, it also includes their allotment, right? Yeah. So that ends up to being basically 4 bottles that they'll deduct from that. Okay. I've done all the calculations already. It's very quick for them to enter it in. Makes them happy, makes me happy. They don't have to go through my suitcases. Because remember, I just finished packing up that 23 kilos to its brim. Exactly. I don't want someone farting through there. No. So then I go to the cashier, I pay it, I get a receipt, I show them that I paid, and I'm out the door.
Expensive.
It varies depending on what you're buying. And what usual rule of thumb is there's a percentage of duty. So there's a standard duty, which is anything coming into Canada, period. Right. Then there is your standard HST. Mm-hmm. Then there is a provincial markup depending on what province you're going into. Okay. So each province is different. And of course, Ontario is the king. Yeah. So I usually, as a guide in my head, thinking I don't have time to sit around. You can tabulate it all on that app if you wanted to. I basically give myself the cushion that, okay, if this is $20 US, or even just $20 bottle someplace, I will say, okay, would I pay $40 for this at home? If I liked it that much and I'm willing to pay that much, I will buy the wine.
Right.
Hey, my name's Allison, and I'm a winemaker for Hall Wines. So we're a family-owned winery in the Napa Valley, and we're kind of new to selling our wines in Canada. So we're really excited to be here. We've made a real name for ourselves in the United States, and we're really well known for our cabs. We make some really exceptional Napa Valley cabs using a combination of time-honored and cutting-edge techniques. We do individual berry sorting, very precise temperature management. We use gorgeous French oak barrels to age our wines in, and we also bottle them unfiltered. So you're just getting a really unrivaled product. It's new to Canada. We're very excited to have them up here. So please check out Hall Wines, Hall Cabernet, and give it a try.
And what about that Catherine one?
So we're also offering 2 different Cabernets up here.
Nice.
So one of them is the Catherine Hall. That's the name of one of the owners. It's a husband and wife team.
Beautiful.
And so the Catherine Hall is their flagship wine. It's opulent. It's very special. It's exclusive. So it's a selection of the best vineyards from that vintage. We're also pouring our Napa Valley Cabernet Sauvignon. We're pouring it here today at the wine fair and selling it here now. And that one is just a lovely expression of the whole valley, from the hillsides to the valley floor. It's an opulent, approachable, gorgeous cab.
And when are they available?
These are available, they're in consignment, as I understand it.
Okay.
So as a winemaker, I'm just kind of learning the terminology here, but yeah, the Hall cabs are available in consignment right now.
So you got to know somebody to know where they are.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
that would be, we work with Noble.
Okay,
Noble.
so that's a good. So if there's any links that I can find, you'll send them to me, and I'll put them on the show notes. People can look. For
Excellent. We'll absolutely help you out with that.
That's
Yeah.
perfect.
We
Thank
want to
you.
get the wines to you guys.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Thanks.
Hi, my name is Travis. Looking for a new California wine, something different. Pinot Noir Aquinas, California. It's very different than any other Pinot Noir I've tried. It's a lot more, it's very rich.
Oh,
It's very rich.
big Pinot.
Big Pinot, high alcohol, punch you in the face with taste.
Oh.
Yeah,
Okay.
I love it.
All right.
Can't say enough.
What about any whites? What other whites can you recommend to them?
We have a brand new product, Smoking Loon Sauvignon Blanc.
Sauvignon Blanc.
Yeah, it just came
Love
out.
it.
Very crisp, refreshing, perfect for sitting outside in the summer.
In a pool.
In a pool, absolutely.
Perfect. Whenever winter ends.
Yeah.
Whenever winter.
I don't think it's going to. Inside by the fire then.
I have the link will be on there because I did a blog post about this about a year or so ago. So I'll put the link back on the show notes and it'll kind of walk you through and it'll actually show photographs of the list that I wrote for customs, what their actual form thing looks like, what my receipt looks like. And then I'll have a link to that app in case you want to download it for your next trip. So in closing, that the wine's getting almost done and I have to go home and pack for the show tomorrow. At this time, there should be videos on the Flying for Flavor Facebook page. And I might put little photographs or clips on my Instagram stories, but of course that only lasts for 24 hours or so. So I will kind of put a synopsis and it'll be another blog post on my website. And by the time this airs on Saturday morning, I'll have a link ready to go. But I won't necessarily, I'll have a quick running list of my favorites on the show notes. But for detailed stuff, give me about a week or so when I get back just to be able to go through it all. Because I just made Deke and I a copy of the list of all of the different producers that are going to be there. And I just posted it on the Facebook page today. So if you have a favorite wine that you really wanted to learn more about, you can also send me an email or you can post a comment on the bottom of that page. Because by the time I get back, I'll have lists or notes of certain ones that are coming out. Maybe there was an old favorite from a certain producer that you really loved that you're wondering if they're still going to make it again. I'm planning to talk to every single producer that's going to be there tomorrow. I figure since I'm going to be there for most of the day and evening, I should be able to tackle all of them. I shall have to eat sometime in between that, right? Oh my gosh. Okay, next week, we're back on the travel talk again. Hopefully our travel buddy Stacy will be back in town to give us her expert opinion, but I really want to talk about hotel tips. People are going to be traveling a lot more with spring and summer, and there's family travel plans, and there's going to be a lot of hotels in everyone's futures probably. So I wanted to talk about maybe new technology, tips for booking hotels, where and when to find them, maybe certain days of the week are better than others, what to do when you get to a hotel, what kind of things you should be looking for in a room, what things are just a waste of money to pay for, all that kind of fun stuff. We can even have a fun time and talk about all the icky things in hotels.
Bed bugs. I was just thinking bed bugs.
Yeah, well, you just make sure you don't stay in a place that's got bed
I've
bugs.
got a story for
Okay,
you.
that's next week. Okay, save it for then. In the meantime, grab a bottle of California wine for this weekend just to listen along and celebrate, just for our love of all things from the sunny state of California, because it's going to be our first sunny weekend that we've had in a long time here in Northern Ontario, and we're all going to be very happy. So make sure to subscribe and rate us on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher Radio, Spotify, and as always, flyingforflavor.ca. See you next week.